Okay, so you'll excuse my slightly disheveled look here. Basically, I've been having very, very little sleep over the past 48 hours. And the reason is that I've had a very painful tooth infection. I was going to say an abscess, I thought that's what it was. Apparently, it hadn't got to a full blown abscess. So basically, what I want to do is talk a bit about my experience and also provide some information for people living in the northeast of England who are going through a similar problem. Just some friendly advice that could be useful, and this might apply to other parts of the UK. But some of the general advice might be useful for anyone watching. Um, so what happened in my case was the nerve under the tooth, under the enamel, had got infected. It had started to decay because filling had partly broken away. And the funny thing is, I think I remember exactly when it happened. I was eating popcorn and something came out. And at the time, it wasn't painful, but I was aware that something had come out. Um, Over the past sort of 5 days, the pain started increasing. I knew what it was because I'd had the same experience in 2011. Well, on that occasion, it was a full blown abscess. And I remember how painful that was. So I tried to book an appointment with my dentist, and I have to say, no fault there. I always found my dentist to be very professional, but they couldn't get an appointment for a few days. Well, not last night, the night before, the pain was unbearable. Basically, it got to the point where I literally couldn't sleep all night. Whereas before, the few nights before, the pain was maybe 10 minutes and it subsided. So I found it bearable. Um, 2 nights ago, I just could not sleep, literally at all. Um, so I had the choice to wait a few days to make that dental appointment, or to take essentially emergency action, because the thing about any sort of tooth problem, it's not only very physically painful. If it's untreated, it can spread. So it can potentially be a serious matter. It can cause septicemia and so on, from what I understand. I've got a friend who's a nurse, and this is what she's told me. Um, and there's a historical point. I'll raise it after this video, because if you're watching this, you probably just want to know an answer for the pain. And I'm sorry for waffling on. But basically, what I found was that going to this hospital in Newcastle, it's basically called the Newcastle Dental Hospital. It's connected to the Victoria Infirmary and Newcastle University. So basically, if you're in Newcastle city centre, Haymarket Metro Station, go through the university, Newcastle University, as if you're going straight through the complex, and keep walking northwards. It's a fair walk. It's a good 10 minutes, because it's a big hospital. Go past the main hospital, keep going north, and then eventually you come to signs saying dental hospital, and you go through little few little passageways. It does seem a little bit out, but eventually you get there, and it's basically what I found was they were very friendly service, very professional. I was very impressed all around. I'd made the phone call in Sunderland, and I was slightly apprehensive, will it work, will it not? But I thought, at least, the thing is, when you're in pain, you'll try anything. So I went there, and what happened was you register at the desk, and it does come on a first serve, excuse me, first serve, first come, first served basis. So you arrive there, gives you details. It's just basic details: your address, date of birth, and so on. Um, and then I think 1 o'clock is the deadline for the registry. Then at 1:45, they basically start calling people through. I was fortunate because I appeared to be one of the first. So there was not a huge amount of waiting. And the thing is, the pain had subsided when I was walking around anyway, so it wasn't unbearable in the hospital itself. Um, and what they do is one of the dentists will then bring you through and basically get a general idea of what the problem is. Then you go for an X-ray to make sure that is the problem. You hand that in to the reception, and then you're treated. Um, altogether, there is a bit of waiting between these, but given the number of patients and given how busy this complex is, I wasn't disappointed by the waiting time, I have to say. In the UK, it is not unusual for waiting time to be a major issue in hospitals. Well, I got everything done within about, I guess, less than 5 hours, so I can't complain about that. And another very big motivating factor is that it was free. Now, this is very important because the thing about anything to do with medical issues is money inevitably comes into it. And one of my biggest concerns, without going into too many personal details, is that I'm not in a financially strong position. I'm not in stable work right now. So um, I wasn't in a position to go straight to the regular dentist. It's not that there's an upfront cost, but I didn't want to be in a position where I go and then it's invoiced and I can't pay immediately. Um, so I just wanted this problem solved immediately. Now, the reason it's free is because this is run in conjunction with student dentists, and I'll try and explain that. Basically, the people who treat you are not, as far as I think the dentist who treated me was um, I'm not 100% sure about this, but she seemed young, about the same age as myself, but very professional. So this isn't like you're kind of a guinea pig in there, um, they're just experimenting on you. They absolutely know what they're doing. But there was a younger girl who was a sixth form student, and she was basically observing because it's part of the training. So the reason it's free is because they provide free student training. And I guess that's the reason why. But I don't want people to be put off and think, oh, well, that sounds a bit unprofessional or something. They're very professional. It's absolutely the sort of work you would get in the regular dentist. The only thing is they will relieve the immediate pain. They wouldn't necessarily perform the full regular cleanup and so on. So that's really the only difference. But when you're in pain, that is the only thing you care about. Um, because the thing about pain, get a little bit philosophical now, but the thing about pain is it is distracting, and you cannot focus on anything else when there is a numbing, constant pain, and that's what it feels like. Anyone who's had an abscess or near an abscess um, knows what that's like. Anyway, they done the operation, they used the suction, they cleaned it out. What actually happened was some liquid had built up beneath my enamel, and that was what was causing the pressure, hence the pain. So she released that liquid, which then released some of the pressure. She removed the nerve, and what I found was, as I left the hospital, the pain started coming back. But she did warn me that it would be numb for a while. And incidentally, when they're doing the operation, you feel nothing because they put something down to ease, like an anesthetic, to ease that pain. When you leave the hospital, the pain started coming back, and it got pretty bad, I have to say. And then at home last night, the pain was actually the peak. It was really bad last night. It was even worse than the night before when I had when like pre-operation. So that was obviously quite disconcerting. I was thinking, why the hell am I getting this now? But my friend told me this is normal. I guess it's just when the anesthetic wears off, you've had an operation in a sensitive area, inevitably the pain is going to come through. So I guess that's what that was. I am cautiously optimistic that that is the worst over now. I really, really hope so. Um, but just as a precaution, I'm taking periodical paracetamol. Now, paracetamol really isn't a very strong drug compared to ibuprofen or other painkillers, so I don't expect that to ease pain at all. But what it does do is it still provides some degree of antibiotics. It is still a drug, so it still provides some defense of your immune system, even if it doesn't kill the pain. The other thing I done in the immediate term, and I do apologize for talking at length here because I know people might want quick answers. Um, Listerine. Now, this won't cure the pain, but this is probably the strongest mouthwash on the market, so it it does numb the pain. Because if you one side of your face is very painful, then you use this and at least numbs pain for a while. What happened last night, I was in such agony that I had to literally put my head down because I was very tired. I hadn't had any sleep the night before, and basically force myself through the pain. I had to do anything, count sheep, come up with some story in your head, anything that will make you focus on something else. And the night before, I'd be tempted to keep getting up and put Listerine and so on. Sometimes you just have to basically not grit your teeth in this case, but basically go through it and try to just, yeah, because that's the only way, and it is very difficult. But what I find is if you force yourself through the pain, it tires you out, and then you're like, you should go to sleep sooner. Um, this was probably, if not the most painful experience in my life, pretty near the top. It was bad in 2011, but I would say it was worse this time. I've had other painful experiences. I've had molten wax on my hand, and I don't just mean hot wax. I mean really like see-through. Molten's probably the wrong word, but very, very hot. That was agonizing. So yeah, it's one of the top three most painful experiences of my life. Now, just on the historical note, um, I watched a documentary the other day of dangers in the Tudor home, and apparently, because we introduced sugar in the late Tudor period, the Elizabethan period, people didn't realize the dangers of it. So they compared these skulls, one from the Middle Ages and one from the late Tudor period. And the skull from the Middle Ages, that tooth enamel was actually pretty strong. The skull from the Tudor period, completely blackened teeth. So the Tudors, and the thing is, they had no knowledge on what sugar was doing, so they actually used kind of cloth dabbed in all sorts of plant products and actually with sugar in the cloth to freshen the breath, but of course just made the problem worse. So I was thinking the pain that I went through was one tooth. The Tudors must have been through absolute hell. They must have the agony they must have went through. I can't even imagine. Um, to have all your teeth. I don't know. The pain must have actually made them faint or something. So the poor buggers didn't know about the science of this until much later. Um, but that's it really. I appreciate this is a longer video than the usual kind of self-help videos. So if you're wanting a quick fix, what I'll try and do is put all this in the information box at the start. But I did want to be a little bit more detailed because it is important that people know what the process involves. Um, so yeah, summed up, I've only praised for the Newcastle Dental Hospital. Very professional, very welcoming, and that is important because when you're in pain, when you're a patient, it is important to be reassured. The reception was very welcoming. Um, the student dentists were very professional. So all in all, I would say, if you're in the northeast of England and you're in this sort of pain, go there. It is free, and they will take that pain away. Um, so don't worry about any upfront costs or hidden costs or anything. It is entirely free. The only thing is they don't give the full sort of rounded cleanup, um, but there is no hidden costs. So that for me is a major pull factor because obviously there's people who may not. I mean, someone may be homeless, for example, with no access to money. So that's why this concept is great because it's available to everyone from what I can see. So check it out. I will put some info in the box at the start. And in the temporary, if you're going through the problem right now, Listerine will help if you've got access to it. In the UK, this is usually small bottles, about a pound, big bottle, £2.50. It does ease the pain a little bit, but only temporarily. Painkillers, I've only tried paracetamol. Paracetamol does nothing in terms of killing pain. I've been told ibuprofen is much better. Um, and if the pain is really agonizing, you'd be tempted to kind of get up and constantly do that. What I find is pain can exhaust you, so maybe it's better just lying down and the pain can be worse when you're lying down. Just lie down and let that pain come through. It's hard, but what you'll find is you're so focusing on trying to distract yourself with other things that you'll tire yourself in your mind with thinking about those other things. It could be absolutely anything. What I done was I decided to think of all the places in the UK alphabetically in order. Now that's sort of monotonous task. Just it will be an effective distraction. That's just what I done. You could think of anything. I don't know. Think of all the top hits you can think of. Think of anything that comes to mind. It could be a distraction. So we'll leave it there. I hope this has been helpful. Like I say, I'll put all the key information in the main box. Thanks for watching.